Hi everyone. Boy, videos are hard to make. I've been at this for over an hour and a half, and I haven't even been able to put together a 5-minute video in that time. I just finished watching the Negation of P upload, Presuppositionalism Implodes, and I wanted to comment on it. I'm a little disappointed. I'm kind of disappointed in all parties involved. Maybe I'll start with myself. I'll take the first hit here. I'm disappointed in myself for not having uploaded a video on the primacy of existence and presuppositional apologetics. I think it might have helped in this case. And for me, real life has intervened in the last week or so, and I just haven't had the opportunity to give it the attention that it deserves. I'm definitely disappointed in Colin Pearson and Len and Tim for the way they conducted themselves during that hangout. I think if negation was successful in anything, it was getting them, sort of drawing them out into using the same old tired tactics that we've seen the presuppositional apologists do here on YouTube that I've alluded to in previous videos, and that Len has actually even taken me to task for, saying that they're relegating people to the scrap heap of irrelevance once they've gotten them to admit certain things. And unfortunately, that's what took place in this video. And I have to say, I'm troubled by what appears to be Len intentionally placing that video on his lesser-known sock account with only a few subscribers and potentially stopping the video partway through. The video feed ended, and I'm not sure if it was a technical issue or if it was intentional, and if it was intentional, what the motives were. But that definitely concerns me, because it was at a point in time that was getting quite contested in the video. And, let's not do that. Let's keep things out in the light of day. After all, this is supposed to be a discussion. I thought it was anyway. And I will say I'm a little bit disappointed in the counter-apologetic that Negation of P was using. And I don't want to be too critical, because I understand what he was trying to do. It's just that I think, unfortunately, just like the primacy of existence, it completely misses the point, the real fly in the ointment for the presuppositional apologetic. Ultimately, if it was all we had, then I think the counter-apologetic that negation brought up would have been, one worth pursuing. But I do think it misses the point, and unfortunately, I think when it comes to that particular counter-apologetic, it gets bogged down in interpretations, because essentially it ends up in discussions of interpretations of Scripture. The opponent, one person is going to be saying, well, God changes his mind, and the opponent, all he has to do is simply say, well, I disagree. You're not interpreting Scripture correctly, and you're at kind of a stalemate. It doesn't give us really any insight into the real epistemology of it, unless people are willing to give some ground, and I don't think that's likely to happen here. When it comes to the presuppositional apologetic, essentially what's going on is the apologist is holding you to a higher standard of justification than they're holding themselves. And so we spend all this time justifying our epistemology when we may otherwise be confident in it, needlessly coming up with different kind of counter-apologetics, when, if we just look over the fence, we're going to find that all they've done to end the infinite regress on their side is to slap a label on it. They'll call it virtuous, but that doesn't obviously get the job done. And ultimately what we're talking about here anyway is resonance. Does this worldview resonate with me? And if it does, fine. If it doesn't, well, your presuppositional apologetic is not likely to carry any weight. It doesn't really add much to the conversation either. What they've simply done is highlighted some age-old philosophical problems about epistemology and acted as though they've got the answers through assertion. They haven't provided any justification, and made sure they've sort of gone on the aggressive tack with it. Now, I do still plan to upload a video on the primacy of existence and why I agree with Ozzy that it's not really a sufficient answer to the presuppositional apologetic, but more importantly, that it's an unnecessary answer, even if it was somehow legitimate, that there's no need to bring it out. And what I will do, just to close this video out, is I'll read a response that I was writing to someone with regards to the primacy of existence in some private message back and forth that we had that just sort of illustrates the point that I'm trying to make here. I had said, I think the important thing to stress is that the primacy of existence isn't just erroneous to the argument, but completely unnecessary, in that there's no need to desperately run around trying to justify one's own epistemic grounding when their opponent hasn't provided any more justification for their own. To me, it really seems that the apologist is holding his opponent to a higher standard of justification than himself. In other words, I think most of us are quite confident in our epistemology generally, but it seems that we lose our confidence when faced with the somewhat confrontational version of the presuppositional apologetic. What follows seems to be that desperate attempt to justify one's position, and I think that is engineered into that particular version for good reason, to avoid similar scrutiny in the other direction. And I think that's obviously what's taking place here. The apologist has not given you any more justification for to end their infinite regress, except to call it virtuous. And that just doesn't give it any traction. Now, the other thing that's come to my attention or made me ponder things recently was when Len said in a recent video that with every video that I make, I am attempting to relegate the presuppositional apologetic to the scrap heap. And I've given a lot of thought to why am I here countering the presuppositional apologetic. And it certainly doesn't resonate with me in the slightest, so that's not it. But I do think that it's important for other people who may find it appealing, may find it seductive, to have the counter-argument there so that they can make an informed decision about whether or not that apologetic is a compelling one in terms of accepting the premises that they're putting forth. And so I do think it's important, if we're going to make any decisions in life, obviously, that we have, the pros and the cons, that we have all sides of an argument. That's the only thing that even closely resembles a decision made by free will. And so that is why I'm here, and I'm going to probably continue to do a little bit more. I'd like to dive into some other areas, of course, as well, and not stay around the presuppositional argument. But I think it's important to point out that, we're there in this leg hold trap gnawing off our own foot. And I think if we have a look, we'll realize that the leg hold trap is an illusion. It's not really there. And that the presuppositional apologist hasn't brought anything extra to the party. They're just trying to make you look at what you brought to the party and justify that. So hope that helps a little bit. And as I said, I'm going to try to make this primacy video a little bit more clear and concise so that it can be my sort of definitive position on the presuppositional apologetic. And with that, I'm going to get ready for bed. It looks like the dog is doing the same. Thanks everyone very much for watching.